So we've been having a good giggle. I'm back with the lovely, lovely, lovely Brice from Esoteric Atlanta, and I've got Fluffy Duffy here as well, everyone. Look, I have to hold her because she always
Oh,
look how beautiful is Fluffy
she
Duffy.
is beautiful.
She is stunning, but she keeps knocking my computer off when I'm halfway through recorded. So if you suddenly see me grab her, I'm not being mean. We had a lovely chat, it seems ages ago, on Monday. I don't know where the time's going. How's everything with you? And is time flying for you as well?
What is time? I was telling you, Catherine, before we started recording, these last couple of weeks, especially, and it's really heightened this week, I feel very strange. Like I've been feeling very strange in my body. I'm having a hard time concentrating. For example, yesterday, I filmed a video for Monday for my channel, and then I have to edit it, which editing takes the longest time. And I literally was having such a hard time editing, which is something I do daily. Went to the grocery store, couldn't remember where anything was in the grocery store. This grocery store I go to all the time. I was also frustrated, as I was saying, because everyone's, again, which is just like, oh, but it is what it is. Yeah, and Monday seems like it was forever ago, but today's Thursday, so it was only a few days ago, but it was such an incredible conversation. I really enjoyed having that roundtable, and I thank you so much for hosting that, because it was important conversations that were being brought up, and the ending was quite comical, but
quite comical. Yeah, trust a French man to bring up that. So you know what you were saying, Jez, just about, so many things to talk about, but you've just triggered something in me, actually. So I was listening to Nick Alvatar from Good Lion TV, who I'm speaking to tomorrow on my channel, actually, and he's just done an amazing new video. Go check it out on his YouTube site, guys. But he's talking a lot about the Mandela effect. And what you were just saying now, I was just thinking, oh my God, it's like this, you're going into the grocery store and finding a whole, there's so many times in our life where we feel this big shift that's happened. And the video, I mean, without going into too much details, go and watch it, guys, but I'll put the link below. But, he's got pictures of people where even like the Statue of Liberty has moved position in the picture.
Yeah.
Things. It's just spooky.
It's wild. Yeah.
It triggered so many things when I'm thinking about bits in my life where this has happened.
I agree. That the Mandela, that whole concept of, that comes from Nelson Mandela, for those who are not familiar with this concept. And there's this big, like, collective group of people who don't know each other, who have the same memory of him leaving the earth plane, as our friend Janine says, while he was in prison. Yeah. But in this timeline, he actually left prison and became the leader of South Africa. But this is common in a lot. There's a phenomenon of this everywhere. Spellings of things, the way, and it's certain movies that people believe came out but didn't. But it's not like one person has a mismemory. It's a collective group of people who don't know each other, who have the exact same memory. So then you start talking about this like psychedelic concept of these different timelines and these different timeline shifts, which is wild, because then that really goes back to the idea that we are in a matrix, and this is really just a hologrammed reality that we're living in. And so it goes into the idea of time travel, all that kind of stuff. And we know that the spiritual world is not on the same time that we are in. I know right now for me, like, and I know this is common. Like when I was a child, it took forever to get to Christmas or my birthday. It was like the year was so long, the day was so long. But as I feel like time is sped up, but there was a Native Americans used to say that during this time period was what they called the quickening, where time would actually speed up, because we're coming into this new like eon of a new planet, basically, which who knows what that's going to even look like, but it's got to be better than this. But who knows what that's going to even look like. But that is wild. That will spin, those whole theories and multiverse theories will, like, it's like the butterfly effect. It's like when a butterfly flaps its wing a certain direction in Africa, it can affect something all the way in New York City. It's this crazy concept of how things are really all connected, and it's wild. It's just
so brilliant. I mean, you love your yoga and the Yoga Sutras, and I love, people who watch me get sick to death of me mentioning Joe Dispenza, but in one of Joe Dispenza's books, I can't remember which one it was, you know, he actually recounts his scientific study, and Nassim Harim does similar sort of things where they have people meditating on a certain event of people getting well, and they do, you know, they divide these subjects up into two, you know, subjects, meditate on them, and then it changes the outcome of people that were ill 50 or 100 years ago. And it is just absolutely incredible. But whenever I hear things like this, it triggers just massive, I don't know whether I would call it memories or realizations, because I've had, you know, we've all had this experience with people we know where you can be sitting there over a glass of wine and one of your friends remembers it this way and one of them's remembers this way. And in your minds, you are both completely right.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking, we were talking a lot before, Brice and I always talk so much and I almost forget to record before we hit the record button, about, you know, where we're at and the fact that everyone's having so many different experiences. And I was speaking to one of my cousins, actually, he's in Australia, and we've never met face to face. And funny enough, my mum introduced me to her when all this started, because she was like, she's talking about the same weird things as you are, Catherine. So it was just absolutely amazing how we'd never spoken for parts of that. So we spoke to each other this morning. We were both saying it's really bizarre because, say, just in our hometowns, I can go out and have a completely different experience to someone else. So she was saying in Australia, where she's in, they'd officially just opened up the borders, but she's saying here, her and her friends have been traveling across the borders, no trouble throughout.
Right.
So how much of this is actually reality, and how much are we stepping into our own box that we were talking about with on Monday night's experience?
And you, Janine, I was just telling Catherine before we logged on that I was just watching her latest episode with Janine, and you know, y'all talked about Charlie Ward, whom we love so much, and how he's been saying he's been very steadfast since the beginning that this is all kind of like a movie, like a pantomime, a farce, like we're just watching it play out. And you kind of, even though you know that the experience people, the stress people are experiencing is real, and I think we all, even though we have faith in the future, I think they're all there in all of us, there's always this like nugget of like, oh crap, you know, that's, we're human. But the thing about it is, talking about your cousin being able to drive through the borders, when you look at that from that perspective of what Charlie Ward has said and what Janine is saying, and then the fact that people are watching, getting their reality from the TV, and it's not matching the reality of what's happening outside of them, if that makes sense. You know, like in Australia, because where I live in America, because I'm in Georgia, we're relatively open. Like we don't have any mandates. Our governor has declined. He's declined. I got a prop today. This has been declined for our state, so we don't have to do any of that. And of course, we're right above Florida, which is like, Florida's like, whatever, everything's back to normal. Go on with your lives, you know. But so it's a very different reality here than like California or New York or Canada or Australia, or even in England where you are. However, you still have people here, as I was saying when I went to the grocery yesterday, were all done up again, which before Thanksgiving, half and half, you know. But it's like I was saying to you before we signed on, it's like you walk outside, if the TV didn't tell you about this sickness, this illness, then would you even know it existed? Completely. And so what type of like perception are you putting in your own head? You know, what type of chains are you putting on yourself? Yeah. I love her. She's like, I'm the star.
I want to be on telly. Yeah, no, it's really interesting. And we all know, all of us have experienced, you know, you can go out. So I go out on a daily basis, and exactly like you, this week, everyone here, but I'm walking everywhere. No one's saying anything to me at all. I'm not getting any hassle. And my husband's going up to London, has been throughout the whole thing for work, never had any question, never asked to any ID, never asked to do this, never asked to do anything. And then other people reporting very different experiences. So it's just something I want to explore. I know it's really triggering for people to say this, and it is really triggering because I've had awful things happen in my life. And you know, when we're saying, you know, what reality are we attracting? What do we create our own reality? How much are we bringing in from past lives? How much is karma? How much is this? It's just conversations I love having. And it's not saying you've caused all this crap in your life. I mean, I've got friends who've had terrible things happen to them, you know, children dying, things like this. and they're the loveliest people ever. But I think it's just something I want to explore more, because we are seeing it at the moment play out massively about how many people are letting all this stuff really affect them.
Yeah.
And how many are not. Now, you and I aren't in jobs where we've got bosses that are imposing certain things on us, which is our choice not to be in those jobs. But also some people, you know, thank God we have got nurses, thank God we have got doctors, thank God we have got firemen and people in the armed forces. But it's amazing the different realities that everyone's experiencing, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, it's when you look at like, when we talk about reality, you look like the idea of trauma. We talked about this a little bit on Monday, and trauma can be anything from something totally horrific to something you can't even remember that was minor, but left an imprint on you. And so what the universe and your natural body do is everything that happens to you is supposed to be like a lesson. It's supposed to be, you're basically in school right now. And if you can't learn the lesson, if you haven't learned the lesson, then the lesson will have to be repeated. It's like when you have to stay back in a grade or retake a test, it will keep presenting you with opportunities to break through a pattern until you actually do it. And so I know, and I only know because I went through, in my early 30s, I was in a relationship with someone who was an extreme narcissist. And what I realized after the fact, when I went into trauma therapy, was that I had grown up with narcissists around me. And I kind of mentioned this on Monday too. And so I didn't know that though. And so I had developed a pattern that invited more of that into my life. It's not the universe being mean to me. It's not God saying, oh, shame on you. No, I had not learned the lesson yet. And because I had not learned the lesson yet, because my nerves had shifted towards this problem, I unintentionally, intentionally, but unintentionally, subconsciously was attracting that into my life to get through it. Does that make sense? You know, like
completely.
And I didn't realize that. And honestly, and we laugh, like I have to sometimes learn things the hard way. Like I was the kid that had to touch the stove to know it was hot. And with this relationship with this particular person, I was actually engaged to him. I almost lost my life one night. I mean, and I remember like seeing the shelves, the books, and I got really peaceful. I remember thinking, oh, this is what leaving the earth plane is like. And the dog, not the dog I have now, a dog we had then, basically shat all over the floor because he was so scared that I got dropped. And at that point, instinct kicked in, and I called 911. And after that, there was a lot of other stuff too. But I then went into trauma therapy, and that's when I realized what narcissism was, what personality disorders, what I was doing. And we went through EMDR, which is rapid eye movement therapy, to help my nerves release that. And it was at that moment where I had that aha moment that this is not God punishing me. I attracted that into my life because I needed to work through it. I needed to go through that in order to start that healing process. And again, for me, I was given multiple opportunities, but I had to get to that very worst case scenario in order to have a realization. And that happens to a lot of people. And so, yes, when you talk about reality being perception, it's like you can have a family of 5 children, grown-up children, and they'll all give you a different childhood.
Yeah, completely. Yeah.
Same house, same rules, same everything, and they all had a different childhood because it is your perception of reality. You can't escape your own consciousness. And so I don't know Catherine's consciousness like she does. She doesn't know mine. That's your own power. It's your own power and your own demise at the same time. The universe is going to let you have that free will as how you use it. So, there's people, I look at a lot of us that have YouTube platforms since the beginning of this to now are starting to look younger, or starting to have more energy, some more vitality. So you see that there are people out there that are actually using this opportunity to grow, to challenge themselves, to stand up with their own integrity, while as there's other people out there who just look sicker and sicker and worse and worse and worse and paler and paler and paler. And we're all experiencing the same reality as far as outside of us. It's how we're perceiving it though, and what we're using it, how we're using this time. There's a famous saying, what the devil will make for bad, God will use for good. And this whole like shutdown situation, we know that for the bad guys, they wanted this to be a time to basically strip us of everything. But the good guys used it as an opportunity for us to grow as people individually in our own sovereignty, if that makes sense. But it's how you view it. It's how you use the tools given to you in this life lesson. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes complete sense to me. And, you know, I've got to a stage in my life now where I can really laugh about it. Trust me, when I was younger, I couldn't, because I can really recognize now where I have been attracting these same things over and over again. And, you know, one of the businesses that I sold a couple of years ago now, just right at the start of all this, or just as it was all starting, and you know, funny experiences there about what I was attracting in terms of certain people working for me and things like that. And I can really laugh about it now because I can really see how I was attracting that. And then suddenly, once you see it, then it's easy to break. But you know, it did take me a lot longer than I would have liked to recognize this pattern. And I can laugh about it because I was very lucky that my lesson, touch wood, Duffy, let's touch wood, you know, didn't involve, say, a severe disease. And then you've got other people that it will manifest as something very severe physically. And, you know, again, like Joe Dispenza says, you can wait for you to have some awful experience, for me to attract some other things, for other people to, you know, have disease to make changes, or you can decide to do it before that. But there's no judgment either way. I think Jean-Claude said on Monday, the universe doesn't mind at all how long it takes you. And we feel a lot as humans, a lot of personal judgment if we haven't got there quicker, or if we've done this. And I think that for me, and it's very difficult to have these conversations a lot of time with people without them taking blame or shame for it. But there is none, because there's a reason why everyone's going at their pace.
I'm actually grateful. Like I don't want this person in my life ever again. There's a boundary, but I'm so grateful for that experience.
Yeah.
If you had asked me like 5, 6, 7 years ago, I probably would have said no. But right now, where I'm sitting now, and what after that happened to me, the healing process that I went through was so powerful that I wouldn't change it for the world. I would not change that for the world, because it brought me to where I am now. And it taught me a lot, and it added to my own practice. And I'll tell you too, guys, we were talking about like jobs that where you have to, you know, well, so I am the only female in the state of Georgia who is authorized to teach Ashtanga yoga. That's the type of yoga, traditional yoga, that I teach. You can't go through any teacher training programs for this form of yoga. You have to go to India. It takes many years of school there. You're there for long periods of time. It's a brutal practice. I've stress fractures, bruises, literally sweat, blood, and tears. You can't ask to be authorized. It's just a possibility that it's given to you. So there's all these years I worked so hard, got really sick in India every time I was there. And I was granted authorization, and that was a really big deal. And I'm the only female in the state to hold this. And so before the lockdown happened, I had my own, Todd had his program. I had my own program in the suburbs. I was being asked to come teach all these different guest teach in all these places. My courses always sold out. Well, part of my contract with my school in India is that every 18 months, since I'm authorized, I will go back and get continuing education, which is fine for me because we rescue dogs while we're there. We have a foundation with the slums that we work. So I love being in India. It's my second home. But with everything that's happened, obviously that had to go on pause. But now the Shala in India has reopened. But guess what? My teacher is requiring. He's requiring this for this. And I literally it was over Thanksgiving, I had like a breakdown, because part of the yoga practice, as in any spiritual practice, true spiritual practice, is to work so hard to break yourself so much where you actually see the truth through the illusion. You see the truth of everything. And that's obviously meant for a bigger scale, like, you know, you're a spiritual being and not just a human being, but even on minuscule scales, that how come my teacher in India, who's the Param guru, who holds the lineage holder, how come he can't see the truth through the illusion? What has he been doing has he really been practicing all these years? Even though he's my teacher and he can chant and teach the stuff, but has he really been practicing what he's preaching if he can't see the truth through the illusion? And so I kind of had this, as we say down here in the South, a come to Jesus moment, where I was like, well, I might lose my authorization because I can't go back because I'm not getting
Yes.
it. I'm not doing that. I refuse. My practice has shown me the truth of the illusion. And I was chatting. I have a friend in Norway who is also authorized, and we've grown closer because he's like us. He follows the military back channel, loves Mr. T, knows everything about everything. And we've grown closer. And we were chatting about the situation. And he said, well, we might be the only ones left to carry on this lineage. So don't worry about it. There's a possibility that there's only a handful of us that have woken up that will be left to actually carry on this lineage. And that perception coming from him really like showed me a different way of looking at the situation, and I thought, okay, well, if they take my authorization away from me, they can't take away what I've learned.
No, and also, yeah, do you think, Brice, I mean, we've spoken a lot throughout this process with various other people and with each other about, that it's really the time to drop the gurus. And, you said when the teacher is ready, when the student is ready, the teacher will come. When the student is really ready, the teacher will disappear. And I think this really links into that, is the fact that there's so many false boundaries. I mean, I've had it in the natural health thing where you've just been really like, wow, this person's really amazing. I've got, so much to learn from them. And you do, you all learn things from different people at different times. And that's the way of the world, and where you transfer this knowledge base. And each person that transfers on, you're not a clone.
Yeah, right.
The other person that's spoken to you, you put your own slant, your own understanding, your own energy into it, which is what makes all these things grow. But then what you'll normally realize is then once you get to know these people, sorry, Fluffy Tuffy, you just need to adjust myself a bit. Once you get to a certain stage, you sort of realize that, gosh, you were putting these people up on a pedestal, and you weren't. And, we are all human. And actually, I think a lot moving forward, a lot of these authorizations to do it are just completely made up, aren't they? Really?
Yeah. I mean,
who say that you can or can't teach that? It is these laws, the insurance, and this or that. But it's just a person at the end of the day putting their name on a signature.
Yep. And that's I keep seeing this thing on, I'll be careful about what I say, but the professionals in the world of this that have lost their paperwork because they won't do this, those are the professionals in that world that I want to see. I want them to open up their own place because I want to go to them, and that's something, yeah, you're absolutely right. And I've seen that. I see that a lot in the yoga world where people will lionize teachers. And I mean, Todd gets that a lot as well, actually, because he's one of the most, he actually is the most experienced person here in the Southeast that teaches traditional yoga. He moved to India in his early 20s and just has been doing this for a very long time. And you see it a lot. He's actually really good at putting up boundaries with students. Like, I'm just here to teach you what I know. I can't help you with your life. That's your job. And he's the one that also says you have to allow people to live their karma. You can't stand in the way of people living out their lessons. So he's taught me a lot with that. But you do see people, and it used to drive me crazy. Like every time I'd be in India and we'd have like a conference, and these conferences, guys, and you'd be sitting on this marble floor for like 3 hours listening to a conference over philosophy. And after 3 hours, you like want to go, you're done, you're ready. And then people will ask these questions that are so idiotic. And I hate to say that, but you can tell the person just wants the teacher to hear them speak and know who they are. And that's ridiculous. That was always ridiculous to me. Like somebody, there's coconuts stands outside of the yoga shala where you can get coconut water. And one person asked once in conference to our teacher, how many coconuts should I drink after practice? And my teacher goes, however many you want. Like the most idiot. Somebody asked our teacher once, because what if I live in a country that has 4 different seasons? How do I work? Because the room needs to be warmer, not hot, but warmer. And my teacher goes, well, you have a thermostat. I mean, like, it just, and so you see these people like lionize.
You do see this so much. Pumpkin agrees. Look, Pumpkin's joined us as well, so they're all starting to come in.
What's the quote with the animal kingdom? Like, the difference between humans and animals is that animals would never allow the most stupid among them to lead them, or something. It's like so
true. They just don't allow them to do it, and it's all done so. I love watching animals' body language. It's just absolutely amazing to see how they communicate with each other. But I think this is really wonderful. I mean, we speak so much about you know, oh, we've got to drop the idols. We've got, you know, some people's idols are pop stars, some are film stars, some are politicians, some are doctors, some are yoga teachers, some are natural health teachers. And then, you know, when again the lesson comes to us personally, and we're all seeing this in different ways, it's just like, yeah, well, I don't need them anymore then, because actually, even if they dropped the whole your little book issue that you're handed up, that issue, everyone, you know, you're not going to get that perception of that person back again. That is a stake in the ground of putting your relationship on a different standing from now on, I would imagine.
Yeah, I said I have no more to learn from him. Like I have no, you know, and there's a lot of senior teachers out there that I looked up to and respected, especially as a woman, because in this practice that I do, it's so freaking hard that there are not many women. Because women have babies, our bodies are not, sorry to the left, but no, our bodies are different than a man's body. It's different. And so it's more challenging, because we're talking like incredible. I mean, somebody wore one of those calorie burning watches once, just in the primary series alone, and in 1 hour it was like 600 to 700 calories were being burned. That's how strenuous this practice is, the real traditional practice. And it already is set up that way to trigger you. It's already there to kind of bring you to your knees, because again, like me, I have to touch the hot stove to know it's hot. Most people are that way, where they have to actually experience physical sensation in order to, or that physical friction in order to have realizations. But then you add the fact that there are these senior people that have been doing this a lot longer, who have a deeper understanding, and people start to lionize them. But then when something like this happens, and you realize that no, it doesn't matter how far they got physically in the practice, it doesn't matter if they could do the best of Cirque du Soleil on their yoga mat, or chant like the monks, or read the Yoga Sutras, or chant. It doesn't matter if they haven't been actually participating in the work on the mat, the internal work, because if they had been participating in the internal work, then they would see this. Because let's be honest, in my opinion, it's pretty obvious that a lot of this is just tyrannical BS, you know, and they don't see that. So then it's like, well, if you can't see that, regardless of how long you've done this, longer than me, I have nothing more to learn from you. I have nothing more to learn from you. And the physical, I mean, it's ridiculous. Yeah.
I think this is just so wonderful, because I think every single person who's probably watching this has got people in their lives that they feel like, whether it's a school teacher, whether it's a doctor, whether it's a work colleague, a boss,
guardian parent,
a celebrity that they don't know. I think this is really, you know, we speak a lot about this is really, really showing people for where they're at and who they're at, and where they're at, and who they really are. And again, there's a reason why we're all meant to be different. So I'm not saying that from a judgmental point of view. There's a reason why people are making certain decisions. There's a very good reason why some people prefer the bury your head in the sand and pretend it's not happening approach. That is a very justifiable survival mechanism. And for some people, that's the stage of their life that they need to be in to get through certain things. So, oh, now Pumpkin's going to knock my computer and my lights. He's huge, Pumpkin, aren't you? You're absolutely huge. So when you knock it, it all goes flying. So I think this is just recognizing when we sort of see these things in ourselves. Sometimes I think it's been, for me personally, fantastic, because a lot of, you know, whether it's family, whether it's relationships, whether it's work, whether it's any aspect of my life, it's been a lot clearer now in terms of where we both at. And it's a lot clearer for the other people as well. So I'm not saying from a high horse point of view, well, I've decided that I don't resonate with these. There's loads of people that have decided they don't resonate with me, but we didn't anyway. That's the thing. We were just pretending we did.
Yeah, it's funny. There was a meme a few years ago going around before all this started that I thought was hysterical. Was this cartoon of this like young boy sitting on the sofa next to this old man, and the young boy is saying, yeah, I didn't believe in reincarnation at your age either. Yeah, you know, the young boy saying that to the old man. And you know, I was actually talking to a friend about this last night, and we look at the idea of the soul, which we talked about on Monday, the Purusha, as we call it in yoga, and the property, your nature, your body is just like your outfit that you're wearing for this life. And the soul, and Janine actually talked about this in the show that I did with Jean-Claude and Janine on Tuesday, with the little boy that was removed, and how he is actually planning on coming back. He's 80% sure what he's going to do. You know, from what we understand, when your energy, your consciousness, your soul, whatever you want to call it, leaves your body when your body's done, when it's discarded, it needs to go back to the earth. You then sit down and you decide what you're going to do in your next life, meaning like what lessons do you still need to learn? Where do you need to go to grow? And as we start to evolve, we jump up in this different, a deeper understanding of consciousness. The Yoga Sutras do talk about this. They say like, you know, all the work you do in one life, if you pass away before that work is complete, it's not gone. You come back in the next life with already having that subconscious understanding of the work you did before. And in fact, our Guruji over in India, before he passed away, the guru of this lineage, he used to say about Westerners that came to India to him to study, because at that point, back in the early 2000s, that wasn't common for white people to show up in India to want to do this. And he would say, oh, you did this in a past life, like you're now coming back to complete some stuff. And so when you look at it that way, you look at what's happening astrologically to our souls, to this earth itself, because the earth itself is changing from 3D to 4D. We're going from third dimension to fifth dimension, but the earth is going from third density to fourth density. So there's a lot of upheaval right now for everything and everyone. However, when the earth itself moves into fourth density, if there are people left on the third density planet that are not ready, they're not ready to go into that higher vibration. If they're not ready, they're not going to be able to handle it. And so they have to leave in order to go to another third density realm to continue through that schooling. And that's not, it's hard for us because we love these people. We don't want them going. Well, some of them we love. Some of them are like, that's fine. Bye, girl. See ya. What's the bye, Felicia, Saint Felicia, the patron saint of goodbyes. But some of them, their soul just isn't ready yet. It's not ready to, it's like giving a 2-year-old the keys to your car. You wouldn't give a 2-year-old the keys to your car. And some of these people, because we are trapped in this matrix of birth, life, death, and I was taught as a child to respect my elders. I was taught, you know, here in the South, you say, yes, ma'am, no, sir, you know, to be receptive to, and I agree, we have to be respectful to people. That there's things that our elders can teach us. However, we have to have a boundary up, because there are people like my teacher, like people that are senior to us in this life that might have younger souls than we do, or might stay back. And I think that's what we're seeing right now, that division between who's going this way and it's a fork in the road. Which way are you going to go? You know, and neither one is actually wrong. Neither one is, it's just where you are, you know, it's where you are.
I think that's the important thing for people to realize. It's not like one's better than the other at all.
No.
And that's the way it can often come across. And it's not, because it can be lovely to be a young soul. It can be really amazing because you've got all these things. It's like when you're a young person, you know, you've got all your life in front of you. And it's really exciting. So I think where people sort of accepting where they are, and you know, this know yourself and just be aware of where you are, and the same with other people, realizing that there's a reason why you're interacting with people when you're at different stages, because you've all got stuff to learn from each other.
Absolutely.
So I just think it's fascinating. I mean, one of the other things we were talking about briefly in the roundtable on Monday was about standing up for your beliefs. And you know, previous generations have literally given their lives, and members from the current generation have literally given their lives to stand up for something that's really important for you. And I'm wondering how much at the moment people, because of the lifestyle that a lot of the Western world have been living, I wonder how people even know what is important to themselves anymore, and therefore
how to do that.
Struggling to actually know how or whether they want to stand up, because they don't really know enough about what their beliefs are.
Yeah, and you won't know about your beliefs until you're really put in a place where you have to choose. I mean, that was the first trip I took to India, was the most shocking when I realized like how good I had it as an American.
Yeah.
And I will say that about the Indian people, they're really good at just accepting fate as it comes, and they're really good at being uncomfortable. Americans are not good at being uncomfortable. we're not good. We don't know how to be uncomfortable. We don't know what it's like. You know, I remember I was at church once and the preacher was talking about and I haven't been to church in like 21 years. So this is like when I was a kid. He was talking about how in the Lord's Prayer, it says, give us, Lord, our daily bread. And now we're like, please, God, don't let me eat the bread. You know, like we're so blessed because we've never been in the situation where our ancestors were in, where we didn't know where our next meal was coming from. But I've seen that in India. I've seen that situation happen with people in India, and I've never been in that situation. I know for me right now, the worst, I could lose everything today and I could go stay with my parents or my sister. I'm not going to be homeless, you know, but there are people who are not in that situation in the world. And it's funny, I was, you know, growing up, so I have an ancestor that was born into the English royal family. And then, so I am related to the English royal family through that great grandfather, but I have two ancestors that also fought in the American Revolution. And when I was growing up, my parents, my mother was part of the Daughters of the American Revolution, and my father was part of the Sons of the American Revolution. And that was more important to them to teach us about the fact that we had these ancestors on both sides of our family that literally were basically walking into certain death to give me and my sister, their descendants, a chance, a shot at having liberty and having freedom. And I think right now and I know for Todd as well, because his father is a son of the American Revolution as well. That's really, we really contemplated that a lot over this period of time, because it's something, you know, in the modern times, kids don't really think about that. Life is so easy for us, and we're so used to having these liberties, and we're so used to just being free, that as Americans, we don't actually understand what that is like until now. Now we've got the opportunity to kind of experience that and see that. But it's humbled me in that respect to be so grateful to my ancestors for what they did. I know you were talking about your grandmother was giving birth in London during World War II, when the big boom things, you guys know what we're talking about, were going off all around that city. I mean, how scary was that?
Yeah, I mean, her sister was killed in the hospital that was boomed. And you know, they literally were on such strict rations. They didn't have enough fire. They, you know, obviously couldn't have any light showing after dark. They didn't have enough fuel. You know, I'm sitting here, it's midwinter, it's 0 degrees outside. I've got my fire burning, I've got my warm cat, I've got plenty of food in the fridge, I've got really good food for all my animals. You know, if I'm hungry, if I go out for a 3-hour hike and I'm like, oh, I'm really hungry and I haven't bought any food or water with me, that's the most hungry I've probably been in my life. I'm so fortunate. Yeah. And I think this is the thing, is like, we've spoken so much about, we touched on it on Monday night, and I think it was quite an important conversation. You know, there's the one view that this is the most stressful time that the human race has been through. But I tell you what, I think anyone who's been to one of the other wars that we've experienced over the last century will probably take real issue with that, because, you know, as a mum, you know, my son's 21 now. If I had to send him off to the trenches, I'm sorry, what I'm going through now is no comparison to and 21, he'd have been dead by now, because 21 was old. Most of them were 17.
Yeah.
No.
I think about Normandy, when they stormed the beaches of Normandy. I mean,
so
those were like 17-year-old kids. Yeah.
I just would like to, you know, really look at stress. There's so much that's come out of the last few years. I am so lucky. As a generation, I've had all the opportunities that my mother and grandmother's generation didn't. So it was completely accepted that I could choose whether I wanted further education or not. And I was lucky to be able to have that choice. I was also of a generation, unlike the people now, where we got university education. If your parents didn't have enough money, like mine didn't, you got grants to go and you didn't have to pay those back. And I loved every minute of it, and I didn't take it for granted at all, my university education. I loved it. So for all this slagging off now, I learned so much from that, made some really amazing lifelong friends and everything. I've had the opportunity to choose my jobs that I want throughout life. I've had the opportunity to choose where I live. I've had the opportunity to get all these amazing animals. I mean, if you'd have told me when I was a child that I'd have 3 horses at the bottom of my garden, 5 cats, 3 dogs, 3 guinea pigs, I would have thought I'd died and gone to heaven. You know, I've got it. You know, what more could there be? And I think now I know I am very lucky compared to a lot of people who are watching this program. So I know there's going to be loads of comments. Well, I'm not in that situation. I'm not in that. But I do wonder how much stress is an overused word, you know, but it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you look at how the people that you've come across in India, the people that I've come across in Africa, how a lot of people live their daily lives, it's quite incredible. And you know, I've never been to India, but I've been to Africa, and the people I saw in Africa, who literally, some of them had what we would call nothing. I never saw them moan, and they were so happy.
Yes, that was in the slums too. Some of the worst slums you've been to, they don't even have a toilet.
Yeah,
like that's the level of poverty. They don't even have a toilet.
Yeah,
you know, and so we you know, having this idea. I mean, my mother used to tell us all the time growing up as kids, to whom much is given, much is expected. She like drilled that into our heads as kids, like you always be in a place of helping, always, always, always. And she would tell us over and over again. Now, I was lucky that I kind of grew up in a little bubble in a lot of ways where I didn't see a lot of poverty. I didn't see a lot of, so I didn't have an understanding of how people actually, a lot of people actually lived. And I saw there's statistics, and I don't know the statistics. You guys can look it up, but it shows you, like, if you know how to read and write, then you are one of a small percentage of what's considered educated.
Exactly.
In the whole global world. And I've said that a lot about the best gift you can give somebody is teaching them how to read and write, because once they know how to read and write, they can teach themselves anything they want. Yeah. And yeah, it is in the slums too. People are happy. The kids are happy. They're giggly. They're joyful. And kids here, at least here in America, it's like, you know, they have all their electronics and they get bored in 5 minutes, throw it on the floor and start crying because they're bored. You know, and it's just a different, it's different perceptions on reality, and reality is perception. So regardless of where you are right now and what stresses you may or may not have, part of your job as a spiritual being that's having a human experience is to not look at your emotion as truth, but as just a reaction to a thought process that might not even be real anyway, and sit back a bit, sit back into it a little bit. That's something that Todd has actually taught me how to do a lot. It's because I do have the propensity, because I do have CPTSD, I do have the propensity to go into like catastrophe thinking and anxiety, but he has taught me how to like sit back and just let things rest, let the dust settle with certain emotions I feel, not just actions, but certain emotions I feel, until I'm clear headed about it. And if that's the biggest advice I can give anybody right now, is just sit with it and take a moment to take inventory of your daily life. My daily life day to day is actually really nice.
Yeah.
I get to wake up. I don't have to get up as early as I used to when I taught my SOAR. I get to wake up, do my practice. I get to talk to Catherine and Janine and Jean-Claude and all these cool people that are now, I feel like, part of my family on a daily basis. I get to research cool stories, you know. So at the end of the day, even though I'm ready for all the change to happen, my life is good. It's a good life. You know, and maybe that's why some of us are shifting more, is because we are able to see the beauty of what we actually have versus what we don't have, or where we are not at. And I know that the powers that be, they're having to consider the whole earth, the whole human population, you know, and this is a population, this is a law of free will. And so they have to allow us to, I mean, I know we've talked about this a little bit with like vibrations and stuff, but the people who are staying on this earth have to be at a place where they're willing to accept a new reality, you know, and that's what's coming down to. So yeah, it's the wild times, right? Like
wild times, and it is all perception. So, you know, we are lucky in this reality. We've both created really amazing lives for ourselves, but it's so funny how much I get so many people, really good friends, who are just like, oh my God, so awful, because you've got to get up so early and stay up so late doing the animals, and you can't go away for whenever you want to for the weekend. And, you know, that's such a tie. You know, why do you have all the animals for such a tie? And I'm like, you do not realize how much joy they bring. Now, I was very lucky. I did a lot of traveling when I was younger. I've got no desire to do that anymore. I love it. I love the fact that I can traipse down in my pajamas like a mad woman with the torch in my head and do the foxes and the horses and just hope my neighbor doesn't see me, which they do frequently. But it is, you know, so it's funny because I completely see that would be awful to other people as a lifestyle choice. But to me, I love it, and it
Yeah.
is a choice, and I really appreciate it. And don't get me wrong, sometimes when it's pouring with rain and it's freezing cold and the power's off and I'm thinking, oh, I really don't want to get up and do this. But that's very rare compared to the fact of how much joy it gives me. And then other people choose a different life. So I've got other friends who've got no ties, no strings at all, and they can just go, well, they could, wherever they want, and they will be able to soon. The thing, and that's brilliant, and that's what really lights their fire, and that's what they're here to do. But it's not what I want to do at the moment, and they certainly don't want to do what I want to do. So I think this acceptance of what do you want to do, and people spending some time to really sit there and think, you know, even if you're working full time, because there's a lot of people that have been working full time throughout the whole of this, but still spending a bit of time about what really does make me feel grateful, what really does make me feel joy, and just really keep that to you, not what other people's expectations are.
Yeah,
because
there you go. That's
your
it.
best friend could have completely different expectations, and you can still be great friends, but want to choose very different lifestyles.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And that's it. And you know, it's funny because you know, with the type of yoga that I practice, we have to get up super early in the morning, like 3 o'clock in the morning. And I'm in India, I get up at 2 a.m.
3 o'clock in the morning, that makes me look like I'm having a massive lion every morning.
Well, it's called Brahma Muhurta, and that's when we practice because the time gone. I've done this for years now. And then when I taught Mysore, I had to get up even early, and I still get up early now because Todd teaches, and I just get up and do my thing. But that's why I can't do super late shows, because we have to go to bed super early. But I tell you, and that for years, I was totally fine with that for years, because I loved my practice and I loved my lifestyle. But at this point, especially with the shift and what's happening with my school in India, I'm looking forward to the time where we can actually shift that around a little bit, and I can stay up later and have that community again in later nights. But I'm fine with it, because it's going to be, I know there's going to be some shifts going on before it gets there. But you know, and that's the thing too. What you like now, you might not like in 10 years, and that's okay, because we all evolve and we all change. You know, we all have these different. I mean, when I lived in Los Angeles right after college, when I lived in LA, I mean, I was going to bed at the time that I get up now. And I went to the Viper. I was a house guest at the Viper Room and all these, and I had so much fun. I wouldn't want to do that now. It was great for the early 20s, not for the late 30s. But I don't miss it. But I would like to find that place of balance where I can, you know, once we're able to all get together again, stay up late and have a couple of drinks with friends and
they're kissing.
They're so beautiful.
He's like a panther. He's so huge. Look at that face.
You are so beautiful.
Well, I said on that note today, I actually spoke to my husband today, because people were saying, what do you want for Christmas? And I said, I really want bird feed and bird feeders. And it made me laugh, because it shows the stage of my life I'm at. So I loved all the fun things, everything, but I don't, you know, it'd be a bit odd if I was enjoying the same things that my 18-year-old children are.
Right. Exactly.
You know, there's a reason, but it makes me laugh, because I always used to buy my grandparents bird feed and bird feeders, and now I'm like, oh, I've definitely reached that stage where that's what really excites me.
Here I am. You know, I remember my cousin said once, you know, you're getting old when you ask your parents for a really nice vacuum cleaner for Christmas.
Yes, exactly. And you're so excited.
She was so excited to get that Dyson vacuum cleaner.
I've definitely reached that stage, and so the funny thing is I'm quite happy with it, but it did make me laugh, because when I heard the words coming out of my word, I was thinking, for years when I was younger, that's what I always got my grandparents, was bird feed and bird feeders, and now that's what I'm asking for. So
it's like come to Jesus moment, as you're like,
it was. I was like, oh my gosh, that's really quite funny. But I think, you know, for people, you know, no one's asking us for advice, but I'm going to give it anyway. You know, that's why gratitude journals, you know, it's such a cliche, and people tend to start one off, and then after a week it phases out and you don't use it again. But it's so important, isn't it? Just as when you commit things that you don't want or fear to writing, when you commit things that you're grateful to writing, it is so powerful, isn't it?
Well, I have to tell you, Catherine, this is going to sound so cheesy, and maybe it's because I have a Scorpio moon. I love how Janine always says that, because she has one as well, and we are emotional people. We have a Scorpio.
I've got a Scorpio moon. My friend just did my chart for me.
Oh, yes. There we go. Well, and I don't know, maybe it was hormones, but earlier this week, I was feeling so emotional, because I was so grateful to you, to Janine, to Jean-Claude, to Tamara, to David Zub, like all these people that I've become friends with, like that I would have never met if it wasn't for everything going on right now. And I got like ugly crying, emotional, and just so grateful for you and for all these people that have come into my life, and how we get so down the dumps about everything that's happening in the world, but yet there's so much beauty in it as well, because we're meeting people that are like what they call your soul family, that you know, that otherwise I would have never met any of you guys, you know. And we know we've lost people in our lives. Yes, I've lost friends. I've had friends do smear campaigns on me on Facebook because of my support of Mr. T. You know, people I consider good friends, but what I've gained, what I've gained in these relationships and these friendships is just so much better. And I think that is, again, as I said earlier, what the devil will make for bad, God will use for good. And it's bringing more clarity to people, and it's creating such these incredible communities of critical thinkers. And that's what we need going forward is, you know, we don't need everybody to share the same opinion on everything. We need to just have people that are able to critically think. I love a little bum hole.
Oh, he just gave you a glare then when you said
well, when you meet, I will tell you guys, my dog has a crush on Catherine, because every time I'm about to film on Catherine, he starts cleaning himself in his little boy bits, like he's getting ready for a date. And when he loves women. So I know when you meet him, he's going to do is he's going to give you his butt. That's what he does. He gives his butt.
Yes.
People women he really likes, he's like giving you his butt for you to scratch it. So
I know, it's so lovely. The cats love that. And I think the other thing that I've really, really noticed big time, so whether it's on, I know we talk about the same people all the time, guys, but when I see the comments that people make, it's so lovely. So like this week, there was one comment where there were a few people that were having in one of the videos I did, but they were having a really hard time. And when I saw how everyone just jumped on and gave them so much support, because of course some people are having horrific times at the moment, and it's just a stage and it will pass, you know, that too will pass. But when you're going through it, it is absolutely awful, you know. Anyone who's lost someone and things, we all know that that grief cycle that you go through is so powerful. And I just love it when I see. So when we're talking about these communities and media, you know, it's everyone that's participating.
That's absolutely.
That's helping anyone that out in the comments and everything. When you realize how much difference you're making by saying something positive to someone who's struggling, that can be the difference between giving someone the strength to carry on and not. And I would like to really say to anyone who takes the time to put comments under videos and things, you know, just to really give yourself a pat on the back about how much difference you are by spreading that positive energy, and how much difference you're making to that person's life.
I mean, there have been people in my comment section, and when I'm maybe having a bad day, that will leave a really nice comment for me, and it means so much to me. Like, they have no idea how much that helped me. And it's true, I see it on my page too, where I will watch
your page, Jean-Claude's, Janine, the people that watch those just seem to be genuinely such lovely people, you know, really what we would call the salt of the earth, and the ones that are really making a difference and holding everyone together at this time.
My moderators, two of my moderators, Toronto, who was on the Jesus Stream with me, and Stephanie, but you know, Stephanie, who has her spiritual, who does the support groups. When they were moderating on a Tuesday night for me with Jean-Claude and Janine, they were very excited because they were going to play Whack-A-Troll. They were excited to like zap people. And then they were kind of bummed at the end. There was only like one person. Like,
I know.
I only got to zap one person. Like everybody else was like really nice. I was like, yeah.
And you do need someone there, because I can never work out how to do it anyway. So
I'm glad. Listen. That's the first time I ever triple casted, and I was really glad that I could not see the chat. Jean-Claude was the only one that could, because I would be so distracted. I would just be sitting there like reading instead of actually focused on the subject we were focused on. Because I know you do lives a lot. I don't know how it's so.
I've stopped doing most of the lives, and the reason I've stopped doing most of the lives is not because. So what I love about the lives is I love the interaction. But I'm just not as skilled as Jean-Claude is in terms of being able to read the comments and react. And what I found that when I was doing a lot of the lives, I mean, I can do them on Jean-Claude's one because he's so good at, you know, keeping control. But I felt really bad because I felt I wasn't able to respond to enough people in the comments. And then I felt that I was, you know, not giving them the attention that they deserved. So I just haven't got that type of brain where I can keep focused on the conversation and follow the chat at the same time. And the worst thing for me is if people are participating and taking the time and energy to put comments and then think that they're being ignored. And so well, the reason when I get more competent folks, and also I've got a tiny little MacBook, whilst I need a bigger computer. So when I get more organized and more confident, I'll go back to doing more lives, because I love the interaction, but I hated the thought that people might think I was ignoring them. So
this is an appreciation for Jean-Claude video, because I mean, like, he's speaking 2 languages.
Exactly.
And monitoring more than one person's chat.
And sharing the screen and bringing up screen shares and doing all that and everything. He taught me through
present in the conversation.
Yeah, he's got.
I can't do that
with different screens, and so that's what I'm manifesting, and then I'll learn how to do it. But yeah, so that's the only reason. If people sort of say, "Why am I not doing so many lives?" It's just because I thought, actually, I just don't want to, you know, people to think, well, what's the point? She's just ignored all my comments. And when I get a bigger computer screen, then I'll go.
Well, they go so fast too. They start going so fast, and you're just trying to, like, exactly. And I don't know how to pull the comments up on the screen or anything like that. So it's just for me.
StreamYard, that's good. So I've got StreamYard now. So you do need it on StreamYard to be able to pull them up, sort of, or something like that. And that is really nice. But yeah, you do need a little bit more of a funky setup to be able to do it professionally, I found. But yeah,
my desk in my bedroom's not going to work. No.
And all credit to the fact that Jean-Claude, the man who isn't meant to be, men aren't meant to be able to multitask, but he's proving us wrong on that one completely. So I hope so. The rest of this week, then, I can't believe we're Thursday already. Have you got any more chats coming up this week?
I am going to be filming a deep dive with Stephanie later today. Janine and Stephanie and I were going to film on Saturday. Of course, I have to go back and edit, so I don't know. And of course, we're planning some more round tables as well, which we'll plan off camera. So I've had to halt a little bit on we were doing a deep dive into voodoo, which has been my favorite subjects to dive into. But because of the whole issues with Bishop Larry Gators, I've had to halt that a bit, but I think I'm going to restart that next week because he doesn't scare me anymore. So that man's probably burned me at the stake many lifetimes. It's not going to happen this lifetime. So
yeah, absolutely, completely. Yeah. And I'm speaking to Nick Avatar from Good Lion TV tomorrow night, and I will be putting it there because his new film is absolutely superb. If people want to see it, have a look at, you know, what is going on with this reality. What are we talking about with these multidimensional realities, with things like that? It makes it go all blurry every time he walks across. The camera just can't keep up with it. So I'm looking forward to that. And then
I love, you sent me the video of Nigel Farage. Is that how you say his name?
Nigel Farage with Trump.
Yes, I can't wait to watch it because I watched you and Janine talk about that. How wild the real Mr. T. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really funny. Now that's a very interesting one because my thing's gone all blurry now because Pumpkins moved the camera. That's a really interesting one. So when people watch that, the Nigel Farage, President Trump interview that was on last night on GB News, is really interesting. It's such a dichotomy. So some people have watched it and said this is absolute useless. He's just talking about how much he likes the Queen and all things like this. And then other people like me are watching it and saying comms.
Yes.
Could be wishful thinking. I'm not saying I'm right. So it's really funny. I had so many people message me afterwards saying it was absolutely awful. I hated it. It was all, you know, just, oh my God, what was he playing at? And I watched it and I was thinking it was hysterical. I just saw it all as comms. Now, as I said, how much of that is wishful thinking true? Time will tell. But watch it, everyone, and
I'm going to watch it. You sent it to me. I've got it sitting on my computer to watch later today because I can't, because you know he does speak in comms.
Oh yes,
and he's funny too. I mean, that's the thing about Mr. T is he's actually funny. I remember there was a comment. It was out in the Rose Garden, and he was taking questions because you know he would stay there for hours and take questions, unlike the new person who just wanders off. But he called on a lady. Oh, so beautiful. He called on one of the ladies from like CNN or something, and he called her, and she goes, "Oh, I wasn't paying attention." And he goes, "No, you never do." Like it was just so fast the way I missed that. I was like it was just like, "No, you never do." You know, just
exactly. And I think this is the thing. So you know, this is the point. I've got to so many stages where friends have given me spiritual books, and I've read it the first time. I thought, what a load of crap. Don't agree, don't get it at all. And then a couple of years later, I've reread it. I was like, oh, now I get it. So I would encourage people with things like that to rewatch it a couple of times when you're in different moods and just see how you feel. And you might decide there are no cons in it. That's equally fine. I watched it and I was in hysterics. I thought it was brilliant. And then other people watched it and were just like, oh, well, this just shows, you know, what they all talk about. They think the Queen's great. They think Prince Philip's great. They think this. And you know, we are all going to see it through our emotional state that we're in at the time when we watch it. Yeah. And so, absolutely, you know, you certainly can't please everyone, but I really enjoyed it. So I look forward to seeing what you think.
I can't, you know, and that's the one thing I see. Besides the fact that the world's gone to shit, but that was the thing I missed the most about him being our leader, is because he was funny. He was actually, he didn't take any BS, and he was funny. I mean, he made fun of people. He's the one that termed the fake news, you know, and you know his whole family his sons are funny, you know, and Laura, his daughter-in-law, she's my favorite. I follow her. She's hysterical. They're all funny, and funny is humor is the highest level of spirituality. Yeah. And so it's but yeah, I'm sure what was he not saying? You know, what was
exactly, and why was he emphasizing certain things? It was absolutely, so I thought it was hysterical, but then my husband watched it and was like, see, he loves the Queen, and I'm like, you know, so yeah, we got it. Pumpkin got it, didn't you? You got it completely. So he's with me, and Duffy's, but yeah, so I think you know, I just think at this time, try where you can have a bit of humor, because it does have, and if you can laugh at yourself, then it's fantastic, because then, you know, everything else sort of washes off you a bit like water off a duck's back, doesn't it?
Yeah. And it shows you've evolved. If you can laugh at yourself, then you've evolved.
Yes.
You don't take yourself so seriously.
Exactly. You know? Thank you so much. So we're going to be doing this again same time next week, and then stay on for a minute. We'll just have a look at diaries, if that's okay.
Perfect. Yay.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much for watching.
Bye, guys.